What's up, psychedelic investors? My name's James, and boy, oh boy, do we have some great news to share with all of y'all today. MindMed has announced that their Phase 2b clinical trial attempting to treat generalized anxiety disorder using LSD is back on track. Now, I'm sure most of y'all will remember towards the end of December, they announced that the FDA had put a clinical hold on it, and this worried a lot of people, including myself. But now that issue has been resolved. The clinical trial is back on track, and we're going to dive into all of those details in this episode and more. But first, let's just take a quick look at the market. Already on this news, the market is up around 23% and climbing, so hopefully that continues because, as we all know, our portfolios have taken a little bit of a hit over the past 6, 7, 8 months for those of us that have a lot of MindMed shares. Alrighty, so we're going to get into the news, but first, let's give a little bit of background information just to ensure that we're all on the same page. So for like the two people who are watching this who probably don't already know, MindMed's ticker symbol, MindMed stock in the United States is MNMD on the Nasdaq exchange up here in the Great White North. The Great White North. I forget what other names we call Canada for a second on the moment, but it is under the ticker symbol MMED on the NEO exchange. So, as most of y'all know, MindMed is working on like 162 different projects simultaneously, and while all of that is great, fantastic, and exciting, their flagship program is this Project Lucy, is attempting to treat generalized anxiety disorder using large doses of LSD. This is kind of the number one project that we should be keeping an eye on because it will be the first one that makes it to patients if everything goes well in 3, 4, 5 years' time. Now, having said that, in December, when we got the news that the FDA had put a clinical hold on this clinical trial, there was a little bit of fear and uncertainty and perhaps even a pinch of doubt. You got your general FUD going on there because we didn't really know what the issue was. Not many details were released other than the fact that the FDA had put a clinical hold on Project Lucy on this Phase 2b clinical trial. And at the time, we talked about on this show how it probably wasn't a huge deal, how it was most likely that MindMed would just have to take a couple months to figure out whatever issues there were and resolve them, but we didn't know that. For all we knew, this could have been an end-of-the-world scenario, or it could have just been a little piece of paperwork that had to be filed. We didn't know at the time. We were leaning more in one direction than the other, but there was still some fear, uncertainty, doubt. It was still a little bit scary, and truth be told, I was a little bit worried, but we don't have to be worried anymore because MindMed today announced that that clinical hold has been removed. They are set to start this Phase 2b clinical trial attempting to treat generalized anxiety disorder with LSD in, quote, early 2022. We're in early 2022 right now, so I don't really know exactly when this will start. Does early 2022 mean first quarter of 2022? Is the entire first half of 2022 considered early 2022? I don't really know, and frankly, it doesn't really matter if it starts now or in 3 months. What matters is that it is actually going ahead. Alrighty, let's give a little bit of background information on the clinical trial itself. So this clinical trial, this Phase 2b clinical trial, its name is MMED-08. I couldn't find it on clinicaltrials.gov just yet, but I'm sure it will be on clinicaltrials.gov sooner or later. So whenever it goes up, we can search for it using that name, MMED-08. Like I said, it's a Phase 2b clinical trial. There will be 200 participants. So this is a relatively large sample size that we're getting here. It's about the same size as Compass Pathways Phase 2b clinical trial using psilocybin a little bit less. It's more than twice the size of MAPS Phase 3 clinical trial. And of course, this will have a placebo like all clinical trials do. And when the results eventually get released in like a year from now, we will hopefully be able to get lots of great data from these 200 people, or rather from the 100 people that are involved in it, and then comparing that to the 100 people who are in the placebo group. So all of the patients that are in this clinical trial are going to receive 200 micrograms of LSD. Now, that is a relatively large dose. It's not a massive dose, but that is kind of your standard LSD dose, ranging to a large standard LSD dose. It could be between 1 to 2 tabs of LSD, depending on how packed full those tabs are, just to put it in kind of nomenclature that the layperson would understand, though of course this won't be using tabs. And the primary objective of this clinical trial is to, quote, determine the reduction in anxiety symptoms for up to 12 weeks after a single administration of MM120. Now hold on, I hear you saying, what the heck is MM120? I thought they were using LSD. Well, they are. It just turns out that MM120 is the proprietary drug candidate that MindMed is running for LSD. This isn't exactly new news. We knew this about a year ago or more than a year ago. It was in their deck, their investors deck. But then they removed it and just started calling it LSD. In all their press releases, they were just saying that they're using LSD for Project Lucy. So we kind of forgot about it a little bit and have just been talking about LSD. But it is just an important thing to note again, that they are using what they hope to be their own proprietary version of LSD. So what the heck is MM102? What makes it, or 120, sorry, MM120? What makes it different from regular LSD? Well, at this point, I don't think we know, unless there's some sort of interview out there that I haven't seen where Rob Barrow or somebody else discusses it. There doesn't appear to be that much information about what the heck MM120 is and how it varies from regular LSD. So if you have seen an interview where somebody's talking about this, please put it down in the comment section. It will help the entire community, because then I will see it and then I will share it with the community. But at this moment, I don't think we really know what MM120 is as compared to regular LSD. In just me kind of speculating and thinking about it, I see two different possibilities. One is it's more or less just regular LSD. So the analogy could be to think of Compass Pathways Comp 360, which is basically just regular old psilocybin. The way they produce it is allegedly different, so that's why they were able to patent it. So maybe we could see something similar here, where MM120 is essentially just regular old LSD, but MindMed just has some proprietary ways of manufacturing it, or something else. Maybe some molecule was tweaked, but at the end of the day, it's still more or less the same. The other more exciting possibility, which is probably the less likely, but still, the other more exciting possibility is that they tweaked some, in some way, the subjective reaction that a person would have to it. So two of the core problems to do with LSD or using LSD in a clinical setting are the duration of effect. So it can take like 8 hours. You don't want to be paying a therapist to watch over you for 8 hours. That would be like thousands of dollars. And then also the onset action, so it takes like an hour to kick in to the full extent. So obviously, if you could lessen that and make it kick in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that would be great. So best case scenario, this MM120 would be a modified version of LSD that is improved over the standard LSD. Again, I don't think that's likely. This MM120 is probably just regular old LSD. But again, if you have any information in an interview about this MM120 that I haven't mentioned here, please put it down below so that we can all learn. All right, let's get into a quote from the CEO of the company, Robert Barrow, that was released in the press release on this. Mr. Robert Barrow says, MM120... Sorry, that's not what he said. I was reading the wrong quote. Mr. Robert Barrow said, FDA clearance of our Phase 2B clinical trial represents a major milestone for MindMed and for the industry as a whole. This trial, the first commercial study of LSD in more than 40 years, builds on productive discussions with the FDA and provides an opportunity to explore improvements in anxiety symptoms following a single administration of MM120. Further, the results of this trial will guide the dose selection and development strategy for our pivotal Phase 3 clinical trials, as well as deepen our scientific understanding of the clinical effects of MM120 and its underlying mechanisms of action. So the major takeaways from this press release that MindMed put out today is that, just 1 second guys, I gotta ask my producer something. Did it stop? The light stopped flashing. No, we're still on. Awesome. Alrighty. So the main takeaways that we have from this press release that MindMed put out today is one, their flagship program, Project Lucy, treating anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder using LSD, is back on track. They're going to start this in early 2022, whatever the heck early means. Second, this is a proprietary, or at least a drug that they want to be proprietary. It's a proprietary drug candidate that MindMed is using, so that infers that it is somewhat different from LSD, although as far as I am aware, we don't know how it differs from regular LSD at the moment. If we ever get the chance to talk to Mr. Rob Barrow, that is definitely something that we will ask him. And then 3, the market is responding to this. So we've been having a lot of no news mixed with like a hint of bad news, and the hint of bad news would be that hold that we got in December for like the last 6-7 months, and we've just been seeing not just MindMed. It's important to note this is sector-wide, not just psychedelic stocks, but also biotech stocks in general. But we have been seeing over the last 6 to 8 months these stocks just crashing, which obviously is no bueno. We don't want to see that. If you hold any stocks in MindMed, like I do, I hold a few thousand stocks of MindMed, maybe a little bit more, and well, truth be told, I haven't really been looking at how much it's worth like on a day-to-day basis. I haven't even looked in like over a couple months because it doesn't really matter to me, the day-to-day movement, but it still hurts knowing the stock has been falling as much as it's been falling, and now the market is reacting to this good news. I'm looking at it now, we're up 26.65% on the day so far, so that is fantastic. Hopefully that bull run continues and this isn't just erased in the next couple of days. Of course it could be, who knows. Predicting short-term stock movements is literally impossible. So I don't know what will happen in the near future, but if you just keep this 5 to 10 year time horizon for an investment in MindMed or any other psychedelic stock, then the news we got today is very, very good. It just more than anything confirms that there isn't a major problem with this clinical trial. Because that was the fear. When we got the hold, originally there was a fear that there was a major problem with it. It might get scrapped, who knows? All of that has been put to bed. We now know that their phase 2b clinical trial, and then soon their phase 3 clinical trial, and then soon hopefully the second phase 3 clinical trial are good to go. Of course, getting ahead of ourselves now, let's just wait to see if phase 2b is how effective LSD or MM120 is shown to be in this phase 2b clinical trial. So lots of good news, guys. Very happy about that. I think I'm just gonna more or less wrap this episode up right now. So if you enjoyed it, you know what to do. Pump up that algorithm, like, subscribe, comment down below whether this is a little bit of a relief to you. I know it is a big relief to me. I love you all. Peace.